Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Ogilvy Do, where we'll be making brave and ballsy predictions for 2013. They will either shower us in success or drown us in disgrace. I'm delighted to welcome Will Tracy, the editor of The Onion, the sanctuary of satirical comedy. Welcome, Will, and thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Will, clearly The Onion has enormous power. I'm extremely excited to have you here, but I'm also slightly scared.
Well, you should be, and here's why. The Onion is the most powerful and dominant media organization in the world. We may know this, but we own Ogilvy. We own most of the major networks, really all of the major networks. They're all kind of subsidiaries of The Onion Incorporated. So in a sense, we may like to fool ourselves that we live in a representative democracy, but in fact, we live in more of like a hyper-exclusive plutocracy controlled primarily by The Onion.
Clearly, you're the right person to have here.
Yeah.
If we're to predict what's going to happen in 2013, it kind of assumes that you can actually dictate what will happen.
Yes. The future is very bright for the United States. Our Chinese overlords will be arriving next year to incorporate the former United States into a series of communist provinces known as New Macau. So,
and how will that look?
there are going to be so many provinces. I mean, you've seen how China looks. It's really just vast. And so I think it's going to look somewhat similar to that. All new borders. But really, most of what the United States will do from this point forward as a Chinese colony will be to make corrugated siding or aluminum siding.
Useful.
So yeah, first thing I would do if I were you, I would learn Mandarin and Cantonese, just to be safe. And I would learn everything that I could possibly get my hands on about aluminum siding and the manufacturing of aluminum siding, because that is almost certainly what you're going to be doing in the future.
So a question for you, who do you think will have a bigger impact on the, apart from you of course, on the geopolitical and economic landscape in 2013? Do you think it'll be Xi's Politburo, or perhaps Xi's Gangnam Style, or Will's and Kate's unborn embryo?
I don't know. Oh, the last one I know. The first two I don't know what those words were. There was a series of pops and buzzes that I heard come out of your mouth. But the last one I knew, that was the royal fetus, will probably be the most influential. In less, well, a little over 8 months' time, or about 8 months' time, the fetus will emerge from the human vessel, which it's been inside, as a full reptilian form, the son of the morning star, if you will.
Right.
And the Antichrist.
Right.
And will assume leadership of the British Crown, and will, in short time, assume leadership and dominance over all of humanity.
So in 2012, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea celebrated The Onion's anointment of Kim Jong-un as the world's sexiest man. Who will take his mantle in 2013?
Well, there's a lot of talk about that. In 2009, it was Ted Kaczynski. A lot of people think he might repeat. He's been very, very sexy lately. We've had a lot of pictures from the maximum security prison that he's in right now. So there's a lot of people think there might be a Unabomber repeat. To me, he has a look that's timeless and classic.
So Kim is going to be knocked off his pedestal.
It's hard to say right now. I mean, again, he's running so hot right now that it's hard to see him not being the sexiest man next year. But I do think that the Unabomber Ted Kaczynski is giving him a run for his money.
Who will social media kill next?
Well, I think eventually we will all be killed by social media. I think social media is sort of one of the horsemen of the apocalypse that will eventually bring about the end of civilization as we know it.
And how will that happen?
Simply by pitting us against each other, much like early man. I don't know if you've studied at all anything about Cro-Magnon man or Neo-Paleolithic man, but I think it'll be very similar to that. Social media will almost be like a tool that will be fashioned to beat each other to death.
And so it'll be
it'll start with verbal abuse, and then it'll turn into sort of factions, almost militias that will form, that will then be pitted against each other in a sort of large-scale global war.
So now that cheap beer, pork
Yes.
products, moustaches, and fixies have been taken,
Yes.
what new old thing will hipsters claim?
Slavery. I think they will practice the slavery as it existed in America in the 18th and 19th centuries.
And is this good for American and world society?
No, but nothing that those people have done has ever been good for American society. So I think it'll be kind of in line with.
How big?
Huge. And here, no, keep going.
How big is big data?
Without knowing what big data is, it's about the size of this.
Huge.
However, if you stretch it out into sort of a thin filament, it can reach from here to here.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do you think it could radically change our lives in the next year?
No.
No. Could it decorate a wall?
No.
No. Could it confuse a lot of people?
No.
Could it do anything?
Yes, it can be used as a sort of light starter before a beef course in a tasting menu.
You heard it here. Big data is just an appetizer. Now, what do you think Ahmadinejad's clout score will be in 2013?
588x point K, and which will put him just between former Chicago Cubs first baseman Mark Grace and actor Robert Duvall.
Do you think advertising will save the world in 2013? Can they be the Batman to your Joker?
Yes, I mean, as we know, advertising and marketing has always been probably the greatest force for good around the world. It has made all of our lives much, much richer. It has not instilled in us any sort of fear or anxiety or want of objects that we don't actually require. It is probably the best and most necessary tool that human civilization has yet produced.
So if the one thing you might say from mass genocide and global destruction would be advertising.
Absolutely. No, I think advertising is probably the most, I mean, it's very effective in genocide. So, I mean, you really can't run a solid genocide without a really strong-voiced advertising campaign backing it up. Something that really has some teeth to it, and maybe even a little bit of a sense of humor.
Wow, so you can be funny in death.
Yeah, it's good to be a little bit hip with it.
So Will, thank you for your prophetic predictions for 2013. You heard it here first. It looks like the Death Star will be taking over the world. Social media will be a weapon of mass destruction that will end all of our lives. And the future King of England will be a reptilian satanic animal with nasty vices on the rest of the world. Thank you very much for your time. 2013 is going to be a lot better than 2012.